Hey friends, it's Tyler from Rehab to Fab Designs, and today we are going to start episode 8 of our mountain cottage home renovation and makeover, and we are going to be hanging some wallpaper in the hallway. I picked up this peel and stick wallpaper from Amazon. It's called New Wallpaper, and the design name is Breezy. All right, next up in the hallway here, headed towards the master and second bedroom and the bathroom, we're gonna hang some wallpaper on the top half of the wall, and then we'll do wainscoting on the bottom. This is wallpaper that I picked up from Amazon. It's by New Wallpaper, and it's a peel and stick. So we will simply open it up, peel the back off, and stick it to the wall, and hope it's that easy. So let's get started. So to recap, here is a look at what the hallway looked like before. It was painted in a light chocolate color, was very dark and dreary and unappealing. The owners or general contractor added raw lumber to the top of the wall where it meets the ceiling to match the trim in the rest of the house. And then we also had this giant hole above the doorway in the hallway that we repaired using fiber tape and spackling. Once the wall was repaired and all the baseboards were cleaned, it was time for paint. To apply the paint, I used a 3/8 of an inch nap roller from Sherwin-Williams and my Wooster 2.5 inch angled brush. The paint colors we used are from Sherwin-Williams. The wall color is called Drift of Mist, and the trim was done in extra white. And you can find these colors from the Cool Neutrals in one of the most popular paint colors. Here's a look at the hallway after we got the paint up, and as you can see, it is so much brighter and more airy now just with the change in the color. This is a photo of that area on the wall above the doorway that had the giant hole once we repaired it. As you can see, it's now gone and you can't tell it was ever there. Okay, now for the fun part. Once the repairs and paint was fresh, it was time for wallpaper. Again, this is the paper I used from Amazon. So before starting this project, I wrote down the length of the wall from frame to frame on the doorway, and then figured out how wide my paper was, how far apart the design did a repeat on itself, and figured out exactly how far apart I needed to put my boards for my wainscoting, and also how many rolls of wallpaper I would need so I wouldn't buy extra. We then used a yardstick to make all our marks on the wall before starting. Okay, so once we marked here for the top of the trim, this is going to be where the bottom of the trim is, where the wainscoting starts. We just kind of connected the dots here with the line. And the reason I did this is because I know that my paper is going to come to this line. So my goal is to place it somewhere in between here and here. That way it'll be covered up by the board and the seam will be hidden and I don't have to worry about it peeling. I started my wallpaper at 42 inches above the baseboards because they're pretty tall here. And I started out by measuring my paper. I knew that my design repeated every 20.8 inches. Since there was less than 40 inches from the top of my wainscoting to the ceiling, I knew I had extra overlap so that I could overlap my paper a little bit below the first piece of wood trim, so I didn't have to worry about my seam showing. I started out by measuring it, but after a couple of rows, I just started kind of eyeballing it, holding it up and cutting it where it would fall just below the top of my trim. So, funny story, I watched this TikTok video where a guy shows you how to cut your wallpaper so that you can fit it around outlets or thermometers like this so that it is super easy to install around it. It did not work for me. And of course, I didn't tape it because it was disastrous. But we were able to use the same technique to try to cut around it and make it work. Here's the video. Check out how easy he makes it look. This video I found on Pinterest, but it's on TikTok under My Art 1979 if you want to follow. Okay, so I'm at the point here on the wall where the thermostat is. When I hung this initial piece of wallpaper and had to cut it to go around the thermostat, I had planned on doing a nice little video tutorial for you guys so I could show you how easy it was to do using the other guy's tutorial. However, it did not work. Being my usual self, I got frustrated and gave up and let my hubby take over. All right, so we got one piece of wallpaper up. The worst part there is to do it, which is right here around the thermostat. So we just took a box cutter and kind of cut an X in the middle over where that's supposed to be. Somehow it didn't line up perfectly, but we made it work. So we cut around that, so that's nice and tidy. And now I'm gonna start with the other part. So when you're doing your wallpaper, you wanna make sure your design lines up, most importantly. So you can't just pick up where you cut right here and move it up to the top. You have to line it up so it matches, obviously. So we're gonna work on doing that next. It's right there, baby. Somebody want watermelon, sorry. So we'll work on that. I'll line that up and cut it. I will say, so I ordered this off of Amazon. It's really pretty and it's a little bit cheaper. I've ordered some before from a company off of Etsy. It's a little better quality. The paper is good. The quality I'm referring to is the backing. So it's hard to get the backing started to peel it apart. So it's two parts. So you have a white backing on here and then you have your actual wallpaper on the front. So it should have like on the corner where you can peel it apart and remove it easily and then stick your paper on your wall and kind of pull it down as you go. It's not that smooth. It's hard to get started, for one, and then for two, it tore. So when I got down here to the bottom part of it, the paper part, when I was peeling, I took the whole sheet from the back of the wallpaper off and a chunk of it tore off and stayed on the paper. And of course, then it's not a clean tear, so it wants to leave some of the paper behind, which would cause problems because then it won't stick to your wall. So it's not as good a quality in that sense. But the paper is beautiful. It goes great with the wall color, and I'm super excited to finish getting this up so we can start working on the wainscoting. So this is the two pieces I was talking about. There's the backing on it and then obviously the paper. And so you just peel this down and start sticking, ideally both sides at the same time so it doesn't get stuck. And then we're gonna hang it right up here beside the last piece. With my trusty assistant. So as you can see here, the hardest part is to line the design up so that the two pieces meet side by side, and getting it to stick into place at the same time. Once you do get the design lined up, start pressing it down to stick it into place so it sticks to the wall. Finally, I got two pieces up. Let's continue on. When doing a piece that needs to be cut to go over a door frame, go ahead and use the whole piece and then press it into place and then cut out the part that you do not need. I saved my scrap pieces as I went along in the event that I might be able to use them in some of the smaller areas like above the door frames. I think I was able to use like one or two, but the problem is trying to line up the design, so for the most part they're not usable. Also important to note here, when I started this project, I planned on only doing the two sides of the wall on the left and right and not above both the doors at both ends. And so once I got the sides up, I decided I wanted to go ahead and put it above the doors as well. So I should have started in one corner and worked all the way around in a complete circle, but because I originally planned on doing the two sides, I wasn't able to do that. However, I was able to line it up in one corner so it didn't look like there was any break in the seam, unless you really pay close attention. So you want to know what else is annoying about this paper? So I finished this whole wall and I'm about to start on the opposite wall over here, and I still had some paper left, and I was like, should I try to measure like the distance between this flower and the top of the ceiling where it started on this side, because I opened and started on this corner at the very top of the roll, put the very top of the roll in that corner and worked my way across that way. So I had paper, but of course it doesn't start in the same spot, so I was going to have to kind of eyeball it and measure it so that I could start it about the same height as this one. And I'm like, you know what, that's crazy. It makes my life and my job a lot harder. I have to open a second roll anyways because I don't have enough left on the first roll to finish this wall, so I might as well just open the second roll so it'll start in the same place and I don't have to worry about it being off and looking like lopsided. So I just opened my second roll of paper and it doesn't start in the same place. So as you can see here, there's about an inch from the top of this dark gray piece right here to the ceiling. That's the top of the paper where it started on the first roll. As you can see here, maybe, there's like, I don't know, 7 or 8 inches from the top of this paper to the top of that gray piece. That is annoying. Paper should not do that. It should line up so that you can start with the same spot on every roll every time you have to open a new one. So 3 things now I don't like about this paper. It is cheaper than ordering from the Etsy shop, but you get what you pay for, right? It sure does look pretty though. I am so excited to see it going up on the wall. Can't wait to finish it and get started on the wainscoting. I did have a tiny piece of leftover paper that I was able to fit perfectly above this doorway, so I was super excited about that. We are in the final stretch now, so we're just going to continue cutting our paper off in rows to continue along the wall, placing it above the doorways when we get to them, and that's about it. As I mentioned previously, I did go ahead and decide to do it above both the doorways on either end of the hallway, so I went around all 4 walls, and it turned out super cute. Next up, we're going to put some wainscoting up. Check out our next YouTube video so you can watch that process as well. Thanks for watching.